Black teenager humiliated at a will reading, until they realize she inherited everything. The cutting glances followed Maya from the moment she entered the lawyer's office. 17 years old, black skin, natural curly hair, and simple clothes. That was all it took for that elite family to decide she didn't belong there. Who let the cleaning lady into the meeting? The question from Victor Almeida, nephew of the late businessman Eduardo Almeida, echoed through the office, followed by stifled laughter. Maya remained motionless, her eyes fixed on the empty chair in the center of the room. Her Aunt Christina, with her excessive jewelry and designer dress, didn't even bother to lower her voice. It must be another one of my brother's social causes. She probably came to ask for a donation. Maya took a deep breath. The weight of being alone in that room full of rich, white airs weighed heavily on her chest, but she refused to show how much the words hurt her. Her eyes scanned the pictures on the walls, company certificates, travel photos, signs of the empire Eduardo Almeida had built over 6 decades. The girl is probably lost, commented Ricardo, the eldest son who ran the family businesses. Someone escort her out before Mr. Garcia arrives? It's embarrassing. No one noticed the slight smile that crossed Maya's lips when Enrique Garcia, the family lawyer for 30 years, entered carrying a brown briefcase. His wrinkled face remained impassive as he greeted each member of the Almeida family with a brief nod. Miss Maya, he said finally, gesturing to the only empty seat, positioned right next to his desk. Please. A shocked silence engulfed the room. Victor nearly choked on his champagne. Christina clutched her designer purse so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Excuse me, Garcia, Ricardo interrupted, adjusting his Italian tie, but do you know this girl? The lawyer nodded slightly. Of course. You should all know her too. His eyes scanned the confused faces around the room. Maya Oliveira, Dona Celeste's daughter. Maya has worked in this house since she was 12, helping her mother with the cleaning on weekends. The maid's daughter? Christina almost spat the words. What is she doing at a private family reading of a will? Maya finally sat down, her posture straight, her face serene despite the growing hostility. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry, no matter what they said. Not after everything she had been through. Enrique Garcia opened his briefcase meticulously. We are all gathered here for the reading of the final will of Eduardo Almeida, he announced formally. Deceased 3 weeks ago after a battle with cancer. His niece Patricia, who until then had been absorbed in her cell phone, took the opportunity to take a discreet photo of Maya. #Intruderrath will reading, she typed quickly, posting it on social media. Lackeys trying to pull a fast one even after their boss is dead. The comment garnered likes and shares while Victor whispered to his inner circle, I bet my uncle left some change for charity. 10,000 reis for the girl, maybe? Some nonsense. No one noticed how Maya kept her eyes fixed on the lawyer's hands as he removed the sealed envelope. To everyone there, she was invisible, except when she was the target of cruel jokes. Before we begin, said Garcia, Eduardo left a video that should be shown before the formal reading. Ricardo rolled his eyes. Another one of my father's little plays? Let's get down to business. The lawyer ignored the comment and activated a screen embedded in the wall. The aged face of Eduardo Almeida appeared, visibly worn down by illness, but with a determined gleam in his eyes. If you are watching this, then I have left this world, he began, his voice hoarse but firm. And I imagine you are eager to know how I have divided my estate. He paused, his eyes seeming to examine each person in the room, even through the recording. But before that, I have a question. Can any of you tell me the name of Dona Celeste's daughter? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Ricardo frowned. Victor scratched the back of his neck. Christina pretended to examine her fingernails. I figured you wouldn't, Eduardo continued, a sad smile on his face. That girl has been working in our house for 5 years, helping her mother since she was 12. And none of you, my own family, ever bothered to learn her name. Maya felt a lump in her throat as Eduardo continued, I watched how you treated her. How you treated all the employees. As if they were invisible. Disposable. His face hardened. And that told me everything I needed to know about the character you have built. The tension in the room was palpable. Patricia had dropped her cell phone. Victor swallowed hard. Ricardo shifted uncomfortably in his chair. What no one in that room could imagine was that behind the dignified silence of that black teenager whom everyone despised, there was a story that would completely change the fate of everyone present. A story that Eduardo Almeida had discovered in the last months of his life, and that was about to turn that room upside down. If this story of prejudice and justice has piqued your curiosity, be sure to subscribe to find out how a simple teenager humiliated by an entire family would end up becoming the key to the greatest lesson they would ever learn. Eduardo Almeida's video continued, his fragile voice echoing through the silent room. In recent months, I began to observe how you treated people around you. How you spoke to nurses, cleaners, drivers. What I saw saddened me deeply. Eduardo paused, breathing heavily. Then I noticed Maya. While you ignored her, I saw an extraordinary young woman who studied at night after work, cared for her sick mother, and still found time to read the books in my library. Ricardo stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Garcia, this can't be legal. The lawyer remained impassive. Everything is in perfect legal order, Mr. Ricardo. On the screen, Eduardo smiled. I know you're surprised. Ricardo is probably already questioning the legality of all this. The eldest son paled when he heard his exact words predicted by his father. What you don't know is that I've spent the last 3 months talking to Maya. She would sit next to me during her breaks and tell me about her dreams of studying law. Patricia, visibly uncomfortable, tried to delete the humiliating post she had made. Too late, it had already been shared hundreds of times. This is Maya Oliveira, continued Eduardo. Daughter of Dona Celeste, who worked in our house for 15 years, even when Cristina reduced her salary while buying her 4th imported car. Cristina choked, her face red with shame. Maya, whom Ricardo humiliated when he spilled water on her documents. He made her clean the floor on her knees while calling her incompetent, unaware that she had just received news that her mother needed expensive surgery. The video ended abruptly. Garcia opened another envelope. There is one more video to show, but before that, I need to read the main terms of the will. This is absurd. Victor exploded. A little maid can't inherit the empire our family has built for generations. Maya finally spoke. Your family built nothing, Mr. Victor. Your great-uncle Eduardo started out selling fruit at the market. The only ones born with a silver spoon in their mouths here are you. The silence that followed was deafening. Garcia cleared his throat and began to read. I, Eduardo Almeida, leave to Maya Oliveira 51% of the shares of Almeida Incorporados, my primary residence and all properties listed in Appendix A, as well as the sum of 20 million reis in various investments. This is undue influence, shouted Ricardo, his face contorted with rage. That girl manipulated a sick man. Garcia raised his hand. If you allow me to continue, there are conditions. Maya will only take full control at age 21. Until then, the company will be managed by a board led by myself and Dr. Luisa Mendez. Luisa Mendez? Interrupted Cristina. The doctor? What does she have to do with this? As if answering the question, the door opened, and a middle-aged black woman entered, wearing an elegant suit. Her eyes met Maya's, and she smiled. Dr. Mendez was much more than your brother's doctor, explained Garcia. She was the one who introduced Maya to Eduardo after witnessing how the young woman cared for Dona Celeste in the hospital, even after you fired her when her mother fell ill. Dr. Luisa nodded. Dona Celeste and I studied together before circumstances took us down different paths. When I found her at the hospital, battling a cancer similar to Eduardo's, I couldn't help but notice what an extraordinary daughter she had. What no one realized was that this seemingly unlikely scene, a black teenager, the daughter of a maid, about to become the heir to an empire, began with a chance encounter in a hospital hallway. 3 months earlier, Maya had gone to beg Ricardo for an advance on her mother's medicine. Not only did he refuse, but he humiliated her in front of his fellow executives. I don't have time to deal with employee problems. If you can't afford the medicine, maybe you should consider another job. That same day, Dr. Luisa found Maya crying on the service stairs. Upon hearing her story, the doctor made a decision that would change everyone's destiny, to take the young woman to meet her other patient, the powerful Eduardo Almeida. There's one more video, announced Garcia, inserting another flash drive. Eduardo asked that it only be shown if there was a dispute. On the screen, Eduardo appeared frail but determined. If you are watching this video, it means that my family is contesting my decisions. I am in full possession of my mental faculties. I made these arrangements after months of observation and recorded conversations that document the behavior of each one of you. He paused to breathe. Maya did not manipulate me. On the contrary, she initially refused my offer. It took a lot of persuasion to convince her to accept. As for my decision, look in the mirror. You are not my heirs because of what you have built, but because of the accident of birth. The screen showed a series of short videos, Ricardo yelling at employees, Christina firing Dona Celeste, Victor ridiculing an elderly driver, Patricia making racist comments. Each scene was like a slap in the face to those present. Eduardo had systematically documented the daily cruelty practiced by his family. What makes this moment even more extraordinary, said Dr. Luisa, placing her hand on Maya's shoulder, is that Eduardo wasn't just building a case. He was giving Maya something much more valuable than money, the power to change the system. What the Almeida family didn't realize was that this humiliated teenager had demonstrated a quality that Eduardo had sought in vain among his relatives: genuine compassion. For when Eduardo offered Maya complete revenge against her oppressors, she hesitated, not out of fear, but because she had a much more ambitious vision than simply punishing the guilty. I don't just want to see them lose, she had confessed to Eduardo during one of their long nighttime conversations. I want them to understand what they did. It was this response that sealed the fate of the Almeida Empire, placing it in the hands of someone who saw beyond immediate revenge, someone who understood that true power lies not in humiliating others, but in transforming them. Ricardo advanced toward Maya, his finger pointed like a gun. This is absurd. I will contest this will in every court. Two security guards appeared discreetly at the sides of the room. Garcia had thought of everything. By right. Maya spoke calmly. What right exactly, Mr. Ricardo? The right to be born an Almeida? Because as far as I know, the only right you have exercised with excellence is the right to humiliate people you consider inferior. Dr. Luisa opened her briefcase and took out a tablet. Eduardo knew this situation would be difficult. That's why he prepared something special for the family. An aerial image of a slum appeared on the screen. Do you recognize this place? Christina snorted. Why would we know a slum? Because your family owns it, Luisa replied. Or rather, it did. These lands were secretly purchased by Eduardo's grandfather 70 years ago, when he displaced 200 families to build the company's first shopping mall. Dr. Luisa continued, the properties listed in Appendix A are not mansions or luxury apartments. They are all plots of land in communities that the Almeida family acquired through questionable means over decades. And what does that have to do with anything? Hissed Victor. Maya finally smiled. It's simple. Those properties are now mine. And I've already signed the documents transferring them back to the families who live there. Free of charge. The room exploded in shouts. Ricardo knocked over a chair. Patricia was crying openly. You don't understand, Maya continued. I don't want your money. I want justice. And justice means returning what was unjustly taken. Garcia cleared his throat. There's more. The transfer of the company's shares to Maya has already been registered. Her first act as majority shareholder was to approve a compensation package for all employees who were unfairly dismissed in the last 10 years. That will ruin the company, Ricardo shouted. Years of work destroyed by stupid revenge. It's not revenge, Maya replied. It's reparation. There's a fundamental difference. Dr. Luisa turned on the television in the living room. A live news report showed dozens of former employees being called back, receiving severance pay, some crying with emotion. This is happening right now, Luisa explained. We planned everything to coincide with the reading of the will. You destroyed us, Christina whispered, her face contorted with rage. Maya stood up and walked to the window. The Almeida Empire is not being destroyed, Mrs. Christina. It is being transformed. Its market value will probably fall for a few months, but it will recover. The difference is that now the profits will be distributed fairly. You don't have the experience to run a conglomerate of this size, Ricardo challenged. In less than a year, you'll be begging us for help. You're right. I don't have experience. That's why I won't be running anything. Garcia pressed a button, and the doors opened. 5 people entered, 3 women and 2 men, all dressed in simple work clothes. Meet the new board of directors of Almeida Incorporados, Maya announced. Former employees whom your father fired when they tried to form a union. People with decades of practical experience and innovative ideas that were ignored because they came from below. A gray-haired man stepped forward. Hello, Mr. Ricardo. Remember me? Carlos Mendez. I worked in the finance department for 25 years until I was fired for suggesting a profit-sharing plan for employees. This is insane. Victor shouted. You can't give the company to these people. Dr. Luisa smiled. It's already been done. The paperwork was signed before you even arrived today. You will still have your minority shares. You will be able to receive dividends, attend annual meetings, just like any other shareholder. Ricardo staggered to a chair, his face as pale as paper. My father would not have done this. Your father did this, Maya replied softly. Because in the end, he understood something fundamental. The true legacy is not in the money we accumulate, but in the lives we touch. Patricia stood up furiously. You won't get away with this. I have friends in the press. I'll expose this fraud. Maya exchanged a glance with Garcia, who activated the screen again. A video appeared of Patricia drunk, making openly racist comments about the waiters. I have hundreds of hours of this kind of material, Maya said calmly. All of you in private moments, showing who you really are when you think no one important is watching. Victor, once arrogant, now looked like he had aged 10 years. What do you want from us, anyway? I want you to learn, Maya replied. I want you to understand, for the first time in your lives, what it's like to have no power. What it's like to be judged not by your character, but by the color of your skin or your social status. Carlos Mendez stepped forward. We didn't come here to destroy the company, but to transform it. We were rehired not out of revenge, but because of our competence, something you never recognized. Dr. Luisa handed folders to each family member. These are your options. You can contest the will, of course. We have lawyers prepared for years of legal battle. Or you can accept a peaceful transition. What kind of transition? Asked Ricardo, his voice now devoid of arrogance. You keep your homes and a monthly income, explained Garcia. In exchange, you participate in a social awareness program. Volunteer work in the communities your family exploited. Diversity and inclusion courses. A full year seeing the world through different eyes. And if we refuse? Christina challenged, though her tone already betrayed defeat. Maya stepped forward, her eyes meeting Christina's without anger, only determination. If you refuse, that's fine. There is no punishment. Only natural consequences. The videos will be released. The lawsuits will continue. Your names will be publicly associated with the legacy of exploitation that Eduardo wanted to correct. The silence that followed was profound. One by one, the members of the Almeida family realized that they were not just facing a teenager, but a much greater transformation. Ricardo, still resisting, muttered, "This won't work. You're just a girl. This empire will crumble in your hands." Maya smiled with genuine compassion. You still don't understand. It was never yours to begin with. And it's not mine now. It belongs to everyone who built it, brick by brick, day after day. She turned to the window, watching the world outside, a world that would never be the same after that day. What the Almeida family could not yet understand was that this teenager was not just executing a perfect plan for revenge. She was starting a silent revolution that would spread far beyond that room, reaching institutions that had perpetuated the same pattern of social injustice for generations. While the powerful trembled, something extraordinary began to blossom in marginalized communities. Hope born not from empty promises, but from concrete actions that, for the first time, placed power in the hands of those who had always been invisible. 6 months have passed since that fateful reading of the will. The headquarters of Almeida Incorporados, once a temple to elitism, now houses a community center on the ground floor where young people from the outskirts receive free classes in entrepreneurship, technology, and civil rights. Maya walked through the corridors, greeting employees by name, a practice that Eduardo had tried to institute, but which his family never adopted. The walls, once decorated with expensive paintings by European artists, now displayed works by local artists from marginalized communities. Last quarter's profits were up 12%, reported Carlos Mendez, now chief financial officer. The employee profit-sharing program has been a success. Productivity is at an all-time high. Maya smiled. And the housing project on the former estates. 300 families have already received definitive deeds, replied Dr. Luisa, who coordinated the social responsibility program. The worker cooperatives will begin operating next month. What most surprised outside observers was how Maya navigated that corporate world with the ease of someone who had always belonged there, even though she was only 17 and in her last year of high school. She devoted 4 hours a day to the company, leaving operational decisions to the board but keeping the strategic vision firmly under her control. The rest of her time was divided between her studies, now at a private school where she had a full scholarship offered by the foundation she had created, and caring for her mother, Dona Celeste, who was finally receiving proper medical treatment. In a cafe in the city center, Ricardo watched from afar the new billboard for Almeida Incorporados. The slogan "Building a Fairer Future" was emblazoned next to a photo of Maya and the new diverse board of directors. His expensive suit had been replaced by simple clothes. His luxury car had been sold to pay off debts. He was the only one of all the Almeidas who had refused Maya's offer. Too proud to accept the social awareness program, he preferred to fight in court, and lost every case, while watching his reputation be destroyed by the videos Eduardo had carefully collected over the years. Ricardo's cell phone vibrated. It was a notification, administrative assistant position, social reintegration program. He had hit rock bottom, considering working for the company he once considered his rightful place. On the same sidewalk, Patricia was carrying materials for an anti-racism education course. After the disaster of her post humiliating Maya, which went viral in a negative way, destroying her career as an influencer, she was the first to accept the awareness program. "Ricardo," she called, hesitantly. He looked up, ashamed. "The program isn't as bad as it seems," she said. "In fact, it's been transformative. Maya doesn't want to destroy us. She really wants us to learn." The tears Ricardo had been trying to hold back finally flowed. At the company headquarters, Maya was leading a meeting with international investors interested in the new socially responsible business model she had implemented. Journalists waited in the lobby for an interview about the success story that was already being studied in universities. "I don't understand," commented one of the French investors. "Why not punish that family completely? They treated you horribly." Maya smiled serenely. Because true transformation doesn't come from punishment, but from understanding. They needed to understand the world beyond their privileges. Some are already learning. "And those who refused your offer, like Ricardo?" "Sometimes," Maya replied, "people need to hit rock bottom to finally look up. Just today I received a message. He's considering the reintegration program." No one in the room knew that Maya's real plan had never been revenge. When Eduardo offered her complete control to punish his family as she saw fit, she hesitated. "I don't want a world where we just swap who has the power to oppress," she had told the dying businessman. "I want to transform the system itself." In his final days, Eduardo understood that he had found not only an heir to his fortune, but to his deepest values, ones that his own family had never embraced. On the one-year anniversary of the new Almeida Incorporados, Maya inaugurated the Eduardo Almeida Institute for Social Equity. In the audience, among scholarship students and new employees, were Christina, Victor, and surprisingly Ricardo, still uncomfortable in his intern uniform from the reintegration program, but present nonetheless. "Prejudice," Maya said, "is not overcome simply by exposing the prejudiced. It is overcome when we transform structures and offer people the opportunity to see beyond their bubbles." As she spoke, Dona Celeste watched proudly from the front row. Her cancer in remission, her future ahead of her, and the certainty that her daughter had turned humiliation into revolution. What no one could have predicted when Maya walked into that room was that the humiliated teenager wasn't just inheriting a company. She was starting a movement that, community by community, company by company, would change the meaning of power and privilege in society. If this story touched your heart and showed you how true transformation comes not from revenge, but from the ability to reimagine entire systems, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that show that the greatest revolution often begins when someone underestimated decides to respond to humiliation not with hatred, but with vision.